hopefully after we're done, the outline, of course, I think can be informative of the various things that I make a comment on. That should also be included in your study material. Look at my outlines, because it provides some information that maybe you didn't get written down. I'm not going to go through the blanks on this chapter 8 now, okay? I'm going to give you some information, and then during the week, you can try to figure out your own, clear the own book, okay? It's not that important if you don't get it filled out. Don't stress out over it. Are you ready? Put it down. Just listen to me. Take some notes. Now I want to introduce you to the material found in Chapter 8, which in the book is entitled International Law and a Global Economy. Now I'm going to want you to expand your thinking and your viewpoint, because up till now, all we've been dealing with is the United States and the laws within the United States, okay? This subject now deals with the world. And so, again, you've got to expand your thinking in terms of what this subject deals with. It's called international law and in a global economy. Number one, the purpose or the reason of having international law. This law, called international law, is rather new. It's only developed the last 80 years. Primarily, there's the purpose. To facilitate, what's another word for facilitate? What? No. Help. Promote. Facilitate, help, promote, whatever your word you want to use, primarily to promote or help commerce / business transactions in the global business community. This is the purpose of international law. I'll repeat it. Its purpose is to help, promote, facilitate business transactions in the global business community. How many nations in the world do we have? About 200. I'm sure there are probably a few more, but about 200. And this world is much smaller than it seemed to used to be, or seemed to be than it used to be. Doing business with other countries in the world is now just as important as it used to be just doing business in interstate, business state to state or intrastate. The definition, how it's defined, number 2. This law is defined as a body of written law that is used to govern, regulate, control, whatever you want to call it, that is used to govern the relations between the various nations of the world, and indirectly, the people who wish to transact business with people of other nations, so that each nation will benefit economically from trade, and have a harmonious relationship, i.e., so that we can all get along together.
Can you go back to, you said, indirectly people that wish to.
Okay, body of written law that is used to govern the relations between the various nations, 200 or so, of the world, and indirectly, the people who wish to transact, people of each one of those nations who wish to transact business with people of other nations, so that each nation will benefit economically from the trade and have harmonious relationships. In other words, they'll all get along together. Everybody have that? Number 3. And here's something that you may not grasp a hold of at the beginning, but maybe you will. Where does it come from? Where does this written law called international law come from? This law has developed or comes from mainly from the courts of each nation of the world. This law developed mainly from the courts of the nation of each world. When conflicts arose between people and businesses of different countries, when the courts made a decision, it became a principle and it became a part of international law. So where does international law come from? From the courts of each nation. When the court of a particular nation is trying to resolve a dispute between people who are trying to do business from one country to another, something happens, court has to come involved and resolve the dispute.
Which
The
court?
decision of that court, pardon me,
Which court?
just a court, could be any court. Courts. Why do you have a problem with the word courts?
I mean, I thought it was like a higher court.
No, that's the state of California, but it could be any of one of those 3. I'm not talking about any particular state or the way other countries structure their court system. I don't know how they structure their court system. But when a dispute gets before a court and it becomes a decision, it can become one of those principles that are become a part of international law. So the point of it is, international law comes from the courts. It doesn't come from government bodies. It doesn't come from administrative agencies. It doesn't come from constitutions. It just comes from the courts when they're making decisions. Number 4. This is important. International law is voluntary. What does that mean?
You don't have to abide by rules.
That's right. They don't have to, nobody has to abide by it if they don't want to. It's not binding, it's just voluntarily used. There's no one single body that enforces international law. You understand that? There's no one single body that enforces international law. There was no army, there was no other government. It's all voluntary.
So what's the deal with that whole Korean shipping company that's like, has all these complaints from all these companies that are being sued and they're trying to take all the boats, it's